London, another suspect is in custody in connection with a homophobic attack on two women on a bus.
Тематическая вечеринка.
Traveling on a city bus where they were assaulted by a group of men.
Hi, my name's Leah, and I am recording this video from my bedroom in New York City. I am a non-binary person. I'm 27 years old. I use they or he pronouns.
Benji Solano, I'm 43 and I am gay.
My name is Mindy. I am 41 years old. I don't like labels. However, I will just say that I am a gay woman.
So non-binary is, some people say that they're non-binary as being outside of the trans identity, and some people say that they're non-binary within the trans identity. So like trans non-binary. And I think non-binary just means that you don't subscribe to fully inhabiting either male or female. It means that you fall somewhere in between. So non-binary could mean that you definitely feel more like a woman than a man, or more like a man than a woman, or kind of smack dab in the middle.
I was very young. I was 10 years old when I told my mom and my dad. Pop wasn't too pleased with it. You know, as a parent myself now, I can imagine what it's like to have a 10-year-old. You'd think that 10-year-olds don't even know what they want. But it was a struggle for me because I felt like there was something wrong with me. But I also understood that I fell into the category of gay people or homosexuals. And so like, saying that to your parents is pretty emotional.
I was 20, 21 when I first came out. It was a bad experience because I was on drugs, and because growing up I was taught by my father and uncles that being gay was bad. So being abused and them always saying that it was bad and all that, it was very hard for me to come out.
The first time I came out, I was 7, and I tried to kiss my best friend Victoria at the time, and I told my mom about it because Victoria did not want to kiss me back. I was very upset. And my mom was like, well, Leah, we can't really make people do things. So that was my first lesson in consent, but it was also, I guess, the first time I came out to my mom. But I'm not sure if my mom knew that I was bisexual at that point. I think she probably just thought that it was like normal experimenting.
So when I first came out, I was not comfortable with myself. It took me 7 to 8 years to feel comfortable in my skin. I had a lot of healing to do because being raised in my family and being told all my life that gay people are disgusting and dirty, it took me a long time to really feel comfortable with myself.
So I guess I knew my identity for a long time, but there wasn't necessarily the language to support that identity being used as frequently or openly as it is now. I think social media has been like a big part of that, like people putting their pronouns in their bios, and, you know, seeing more trans people have quite a following on social media. I think I had to, or not had to, but I chose to not reveal my identity to my parents for like almost a year just because I was still figuring it out.
I mean, I came out so young, so I'm not sure. The struggles were, I wanted to do boy things, be like a boy. I mean, even go to the beach and take my shirt off. And I was doing that for a long time until my mom said that I was not allowed to do that anymore. I would say it was more of a struggle for me because I couldn't understand it. It was like, well, this is how I feel. Why can't I do it?
Yeah, I think that I've been disappointed by people who kind of refuse to use my pronouns or, want me to tell them everything about non-binary and really explain it to them. I'm happy to sometimes do that, but I also have a lot of boundaries in terms of like how many times I can do that a day or a week.
At the beginning, I was disappointed that my family didn't accept for me for who I am, because the only thing that changed was what I did in the bedroom. It didn't change who I am as a person, the heart that I have. The only thing that changed is that I liked guys.
That's kind of a hard question for me because if you didn't accept me, I really don't care. Especially if it was someone who's supposed to accept me, like loved ones, family. I knew as young as I was that I knew this is what I was gonna be, and if you don't like it, then you don't deserve to be in my life. So if I allowed myself, I would have been disappointed a lot.
So I said mine earlier are they or he, but people who are non-binary can use she, they, he, it, or a host of other pronouns. And so I think that there's no pronouns that are preferable for non-binary people. It's just that it's their individual choice, their individual preference.
Biggest struggle as my identity, not having family members accept you.
I would say it has to do with me just accepting myself. I've always kind of felt like a man, but when I would look down, I'm not. So that would be my biggest struggle, is literally just accepting that I am a woman and I have a woman's body. That was my biggest struggle.
So I would say the biggest struggle as my identity has been just explaining it to people, and the way that they receive me and the way that their reception of me changes after I share this identity. So I think a lot of people have trouble grasping pronouns, and it tends to be like this big production when it just doesn't have to be that. So I'll say, oh, actually, I'm not a girl, so I use they, them pronouns or he, him pronouns. And people really have this kind of self-apologizing reaction where they're like, oh, don't get mad at me if I get it wrong. And it's not really about them. It's just about like what I like to be called.
Drag, there's all forms of drag. To me, drag is an art. It's a form of an expression on how you express yourself in an artistic way. So nowadays there's drag queens, there's male drag, there's monster drag, there's Dracula. I mean, there's so many forms of drag. For me, in my opinion, that drag is just a form of art, how to express yourself. So growing up, I always wanted to perform. I just never act out on it because I can't sing. So actually 2 years ago, I had a bad relationship and I always wrote. So I started writing, and with my niece, I started writing songs, and I used that to express in music. I use music to express. And then in 2019, when raising money to do a benefit show to raise money for abuse and sexual domestic violence victims, I met a drag queen. Her name is Espresso Grande, and she actually made me fall in love with drag. I don't know if my family knows that I do drag. My chosen family does, and they love me. But my blood family, I do not think they know, and I do not think they would like it at all. No. The funny thing is everybody asks like, oh, you want to be a woman, that's why you do drag. No. I love the art. Again, I love the transformation. I love being a man. I love my male parts. I just like the whole illusion and the fact that I can gag people and show people like, wow, that's a man, but he can make himself look like a woman.
Well, I live on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, so my experience is different than other people who live here. Obviously, I'm like fully tattooed. I have piercings. I have a shaved head. So I experience a lot of questioning looks, or clearly people being confused, like, is this person a girl or a boy, and kind of trying to figure me out. So I think a lot of times people are a little bit put off, at least in this neighborhood, about my tattoos. But as far as being non-binary, other than having like a pretty deep voice, I don't think that I've experienced anything that is really upsetting.
My experience in public can be, if I was to pay attention, it could be pretty uncomfortable, but I don't. I always think about, this is everyone else's problem and not mine. But, going to a restaurant and then I go to the female restroom, the looks that I get, or even women who try to stop me from going into the bathroom, or if I'm coming out and they're coming in, that look, they actually look up and see if they're going into the right bathroom. So, years ago, it used to make me feel uncomfortable, but at 41 years old, you tend to be comfortable in your own skin and realize this is what I have. So I would say that sometimes it's funny.
Yeah, growing up, my uncles thought that I was gay and they would beat me and abuse me. But my first experience ever in public, like outside my family, was actually in my job when I was 20 something years old. I was sharing office space with my supervisor and like 6 other employees, and then they started trashing Ellen DeGeneres, saying that she shouldn't be on TV, and they just started talking really bad about gay people, not realizing that I was gay. So for me, because they weren't directing it towards me, and because I was so new being with the company and out being gay, I just ignored it.
So I want to say that I haven't experienced homophobia so much. Like if I'm ever on a date with a girl, or like, when I did or was dating girls in the past, we would be like at a bar and we would get free drinks if we were like kissing or something, and a lot of like, comments from men. So it's not really like homophobia. I think kind of, but I think it's more just like the objectification of homosexuality. So not quite anything like really violent or, mean. I think I've experienced more like transphobia, where people kind of assume things about me based on my identity, or, are just really confused about the pronoun thing, as I mentioned earlier, or kind of ask me a lot of really invasive questions. So I guess I handle that as nicely as I can, but I also try and end the conversation swiftly, for just self-preservation purposes.
Sure. I'm 41 years old. There's many stories I can go with. We have not had an apartment, a house, because they realized we were 2 women that were a couple and they did not want to rent to lesbian women. But I would say how I handle it is I don't let it bother me. Like, it is what it is. That person is their house. They don't want to rent it to me. It's fine. I'll move on to the next. If I never react on how they act to me, because I'll be fighting all the time. But I will say my in Egypt, the homophobia over there is pretty extreme. So the looks that I got, or just someone who was supposed to like pat me down, did not want to touch me. It did kind of make me feel a little uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, it's that person's issue and not mine. I'm comfortable with who I am now, and it took me a long time to get like that. So I don't really deal with that. If someone's homophobic, that's their issue, not mine.
I don't explain my identity to young children. I don't think that we have to tell children unless they ask. I believe that our identifying myself as gay is my business unless somebody asks. I don't hide who I am, but I would never approach a young child or kids unless they ask.
I normally don't. Children tend to love me. I do get asked sometimes, "Are you a boy or are you a girl?" And I've just said that I'm a girl. And then I would get, well, how come you look like a boy? And I would just say, sometimes girls look like boys and sometimes boys look like girls. Kids are kids, so they get it, and I just move on. I try not to confuse them, especially if they're really young. If they ask, I'll tell them.
Well, I don't really interact with a lot of young children. I like my time with children to be spent in short bursts, personally. So I don't really have a lot of experience with this, but I think that it's obviously, like, I would just explain it as I'm not a girl, and that I use they, them pronouns, and I'm kind of like in between a boy and a girl, and just kind of simple language like that. Or that I'm both a boy and a girl, or neither. Just something very simple. But unfortunately, I think we have to respect the way that parents want to approach this, because I don't want to upset parents. And a lot of times parents of young children have a lot of big feelings about identity politics, or they want to explain sex or gender to their children in their own time and way. So I think it's honestly something that I would have to have a conversation with that parent or parents beforehand.
Yes, I am. I have not physically given birth to children, but I was inherited by my wife, my beautiful wife. We have 2 boys. They're older now, so I already know that they're not a part of that community, but I would not want that for my child. Obviously, if that's what they are, then I would accept it and love them for who they are, but that's not, this type of life is hard, especially for a male or someone like myself. I feel like feminine women tend to get it a little bit easier, but no matter what, I would prefer them to just have it as easy as possible. Life alone is already hard.
Why do you feel that way?
Why do I feel that it's hard? I would say because of my experiences. Growing up, I felt sometimes like I didn't fit in. I definitely didn't fit in with the girl group, but I was always put there. And I wasn't allowed to be with the boy group. So I remember the looks and the feelings that I would get. I just would not want that for my children. Especially, I've also been attacked when I was younger. I just don't want that for children at all. It's not something that, life is hard already. You don't want to put more on them.
I do not have children, but if I did have children, I would not care if my children were gay or not, because at the end of the day, who they are and what they do in the bedroom doesn't define who they are as a person. So no, I am open to, I would never, if I had children, I would never ever be upset. I would just try to help them and guide them in the right direction, because our community is so hated on.
So this is something that my partner really wants. He really wants children. I'm kind of on the fence about it. If I did have children or became a foster parent, I would definitely either do fostering or adoption. I think that being pregnant would be really dysphoric, so make me feel like I'm not non-binary anymore. and be invalidating for my identity. And I also almost died of an eating disorder when I was 14. So I think that seeing my body change in a way that I didn't have like full control over, or in a way that it had to change for like safety and health reasons, I don't think that I would be okay with that. And I don't think I'd feel good in my body. And I wouldn't want to kind of pass that energy onto my child, or have like a pregnancy where I was having a ton of negative emotions.
Oh yeah, I didn't come out until I was 20, 21. So I had 7 women as partners. It's definitely different. I think that when I was with girls, I think I had to prove to the people that hated the fact that I was gay that I was straight. So I think that's why it took me a little longer to be comfortable with coming out.
I have definitely never been with the opposite gender, nor am I attracted to them. I can look at a man and say he's very handsome, you know, beautiful face, beautiful body, but it would be more as something that I wished I had that kind of look or body. So no, I'm not attracted to men at all.
So I think that this is such an interesting question, because I don't really have an answer, but I do at the same time. So I identify in terms of my sexual orientation rather than my gender orientation or identity as pansexual. So that means that I'm attracted to everyone on the whole gender spectrum. So I'm attracted to, I don't really want to use gendered language to answer this question. So I'm attracted to very masculine people, assigned male people, trans men, and then I'm attracted to super femme people and female identifying people or raised female people. And so I don't really focus on the anatomy of the person. I kind of take an approach as like, well, we'll find out when we find out.
It was amazing.
That was horrible.
Wait, stop it there.
My first encounter with a man, I was 21. It was very interesting. I didn't know what I was doing, so I felt very uncomfortable. And then afterwards, I felt like I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
It was definitely great when I first had an experience. I was a lot younger, the woman was a lot older, but I would say I am a type of person who does not like to be touched in places that remind me that I'm a female. And the person I was with is obviously a lesbian, so she wanted to do that. So it was a little uncomfortable, but for me doing the things that I wanted to do as the first time experiencing with a woman, it was great.
My first sexual encounter was when I was 15 years old. I'm gonna talk about this in terms of like penetrative sex. And it was with this guy that I was kind of casually seeing in high school, who was a little bit older than me. And losing my virginity to this person was a really, I guess I want to say it shaped a lot of my later sexual experiences, because this person really only wanted something casual, and I had developed very strong feelings for this person. And so he kind of didn't want to make this a regular thing. And it was very hurtful to me. And so I ended up kind of recreating this experience and had a lot of casual sexual interactions after. And I think it's because I thought that maybe by having sex with people, I would get them to like me in a more emotional way. And so I kind of used sex as a tool to try and get people to develop feelings for me, which it took me a long time to learn that that's not the way. And it's not that people can't connect really well and in a very special way sexually, even casual sex. But I think I wanted to be seen ultimately for more than my sexual performance.
I don't think I would give them any advice because people have their own opinions on what the LGBT community is. At the end of the day, it shouldn't matter if somebody's gay, lesbian, anything. You should just respect the person for what they are and not what they do behind closed doors. Because at the end of the day, we are all human. There's only one race, and that's the human race. That's the only thing that people should be judging off is somebody's heart, not what they identify as.
Definitely reach out to those who love you. Don't go alone with it because your thoughts can play tricks on you. Dealing with the fact that I knew I was not a man as a young age, and that was how I felt. I really don't feel like a gay woman. I feel like a straight man in a woman's body. So when I was younger, you tend to get a little bit of suicide thoughts. So I would advise someone that if you're feeling like this, in today's world, it's so much easier for you to find help or find a group or find like-minded people like yourself that are going through this situation. So just definitely don't go about it alone. Don't do anything crazy. Speak to those who love you. And if some of my friends didn't have a support group, just go find one. Just because it's not your family, go out there, look for someone. Like I said, in the 21st century, we're going to be able to work through that. Just don't do it alone.
You have to love yourself. If you want to have people love you and attract that, you have to love yourself. At the end of the day, you have to remind yourself that you're a good person and that you love yourself. Because at the end of the day, everyone's not going to like you, and that is okay.
Take your time. Be gentle with yourself. Forgive yourself for maybe not knowing before. Forgive yourself with, having dysphoria. Everyone, regardless of their gender, regardless if they're trans or cisgender, straight, bisexual, lesbian, gay, whatever you identify as, people all have struggles with their body. They have struggles with not feeling that they're good enough. They have struggles with relationships. People just have different struggles. So if this is something that you're struggling with right now, know that you're not alone. There's, a ton of cool pages on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube to follow where people talk openly about their journeys. And sometimes it's really nice to join a Facebook group for trans or non-binary people, or go to a trans support group through an LGBTQ center, and just surround yourself with other people who have a similar experience, because a lot of times we have this illusion of separation, like I'm so different from everybody else because I have this struggle, and there is always somebody out there who doesn't necessarily have your same struggle, because you're your own person, and you have your own thoughts, but they might have kind of a similar trajectory in terms of trying to navigate their identity. So I think the overarching advice I have is just remember that you're not alone and get support.
I do believe in God. My mom raised me big on faith in God, and I believe that I'm going to heaven. I believe that all gay people are God's children, because at the end of the day, He made us in His image. He defined us. He's the one that designed us before we were born. He knew who we were going to be. So in my opinion, that we are all God's children, and God loves all His children regardless of what they identify as.
You can live a life that's filled with His redeeming power. You would have somebody to look after you and to love you and get you through your life. Jesus Christ would give you that. This world will not give you that. This world will give you heartache. This world will give you divorce. This world will give you pain. But Jesus Christ comes.